Part 1. The Desperate Moment. The cold wind cut through Anna's thin dress as she stood on the old wooden bridge. Her hands shook as she held the crumpled paper that had changed everything. The words on it were simple but cruel. Final notice, property foreclosure. 3 months. That's all the time she had left before losing the only home she'd ever known. Anna looked down at the dark water rushing beneath her feet. The river seemed angry tonight, just like everything else in her life. 6 months ago, she had been planning her wedding, helping run the family farm, and dreaming of a future filled with laughter and children. Now she stood alone with empty pockets and a broken heart. Her father had died suddenly last spring, leaving behind more debts than anyone knew about. The medical bills from his long illness had eaten through their savings like fire through dry grass. Then came the lawyers, the bank officials, and the men in expensive suits who spoke in numbers that made no sense to a simple farm girl. "We tried to work with you," the banker had said earlier that day, his voice as cold as winter snow. "But business is business. You have 60 days to vacate the property." Anna had run from his office, her cheeks burning with shame and anger. She had no family left, no close friends with money to help, and no skills that city folks would pay for. The farm was everything. Her past, her present, and what she thought would be her future. The wind picked up, making the old bridge creak and sway. Anna closed her eyes and tried to remember happier times. Summer mornings feeding the chickens with her father, picking apples from the old tree behind the house, dancing in the kitchen while her mother cooked Sunday dinner. But those memories felt like someone else's life now. She took a step closer to the edge. The wooden rail was rough under her hands, and she could smell the muddy water below. Maybe this was the only way out. Maybe some problems were too big to solve. Maybe giving up wasn't as cowardly as everyone said it was. Just as Anna lifted one foot to climb over the rail, she heard the sound of horse hooves on the dirt road behind her. She froze, hoping whoever it was would just keep riding past. She didn't want to explain herself to anyone. She didn't want to see pity in another person's eyes. But the hooves stopped. Anna heard boots hitting the ground and slow, careful footsteps walking toward her. Her heart pounded as she realized someone was coming to talk to her. "Evening, missing," came a deep, gentle voice. "Beautiful night for a walk, though this old bridge gets mighty cold after sunset." Anna turned around slowly. A tall man in a worn cowboy hat stood about 10 feet away from her. His clothes were simple, dark jeans, a work shirt, and boots that had seen plenty of hard days. But his eyes were kind, and he wasn't moving any closer. He seemed to understand that she was like a frightened animal that might run if pushed too hard. "I'm fine," Anna said quickly, though her voice shook. "Just getting some fresh air." The cowboy nodded and leaned against a fence post. "Fresh air's good for thinking," he agreed. "Though I find thinking goes better with a warm cup of coffee and a place to sit down. This old bridge has seen better days." Anna stared at him. Most people would have asked what she was doing out here alone at night. They would have demanded answers or tried to talk her out of whatever they thought she was planning. But this stranger just stood there, calm and patient, like he had all the time in the world. "You know this bridge?" Anna asked, curious despite everything. "Built it myself, actually," the cowboy said with a small smile. "Well, me and my grandfather. I was about 12 years old, more hindrance than help. But he let me hammer in some of the nails. Said every man should build something that lasts." Anna looked at the bridge with new eyes. It was sturdy and well-made, even if it was showing its age. "It's a good bridge," she said. "It served its purpose," the cowboy agreed. "Connects one side of the creek to the other. Helps folks get where they need to go, though I reckon some folks might think about using it for other purposes when they're feeling lost." Anna's breath caught in her throat. He knew. Somehow this stranger understood exactly what she had been planning. She expected him to lecture her or try to grab her arm. Instead, he just kept talking in that calm, easy voice. "I lost my own father when I was about your age," he said, looking out at the water. "Felt like the world had ended. Couldn't see how anything would ever be right again." "What did you do?" Anna heard herself asking. The cowboy was quiet for a moment. "Well, I made some poor choices for a while. Drank too much, picked fights, pushed away everyone who tried to help. But eventually I learned something important." "What's that?" "That the worst day of your life is still just one day. Tomorrow might be different. Might be better. But you can't find out if you're not there to see it." Anna felt tears starting to fall. She had been holding them back for so long, trying to be strong, trying to figure everything out on her own. But this stranger's kindness cracked something open inside her chest. "I don't have anywhere to go," she whispered. I'm going to lose everything. The cowboy straightened up and took a careful step closer. Miss, I don't know your troubles, and I won't pretend I do. But I do know that giving up is the only choice that can't be changed later. Every other choice, no matter how bad it seems, can be fixed or improved or worked around. But giving up? That's final. Anna wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. You don't understand. I owe money I don't have. I'm losing my home. I don't have any skills or education. I'm nobody. You're somebody to me, the cowboy said simply. You're somebody who loves that farm enough to cry over losing it. You're somebody who cared for a sick father. You're somebody who's been carrying a heavy load all by yourself. That makes you somebody special in my book. For the first time in months, Anna felt a tiny spark of hope. It was small and fragile, like a candle flame in the wind. But it was there. I don't even know your name, Anna said. The cowboy touched the brim of his hat. Name's Jake Rivera. And I was just thinking, my ranch could use some help. Nothing fancy, cooking, cleaning, maybe helping with the animals. Room and board included, and enough wages to help you figure out your next step. Anna stared at him in shock. You don't even know me. I could be anyone. I could be dangerous, Jake chuckled softly. Miss, dangerous people don't usually cry over losing the family farm. They don't stand on bridges thinking about other people they might hurt. Dangerous people don't have eyes like yours. What kind of eyes do I have? Anna asked, genuinely curious. Honest ones, Jake said. Sad ones right now, but honest. The kind of eyes that belong to someone worth helping. Anna looked at the water below, then back at Jake. The choice seemed impossible just minutes ago. Now suddenly there was another option. A stranger was offering her a lifeline, asking for nothing but honest work in return. Why would you do this for someone you just met? Anna asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Because someone did it for me once, he said finally. When I was at my lowest point, a stranger gave me a chance. Told me I could pay it forward someday. I reckon someday is today. Anna took a deep breath and stepped away from the rail. The bridge suddenly felt safer, less like an ending and more like what it was supposed to be, a way to cross from one place to another. Okay, she said, her voice stronger now. I'll come with you. I'll work hard, I promise. Jake smiled and his whole face lit up. I never doubted it for a second. Come on, let's get you somewhere warm. Tomorrow we'll figure out the details. As they walked toward Jake's horse, Anna looked back at the bridge one more time. She had come here planning to end her story. Instead, she was beginning a new chapter. Sometimes she realized the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. The horse was a gentle bay mare with kind eyes. Jake helped Anna climb up behind him, and as they rode away from the bridge, Anna felt something she hadn't experienced in months, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The stars were bright overhead, and the night air smelled like grass and possibility. Behind them, the bridge stood strong, continuing its job of connecting one side of the world to the other. And ahead of them lay a future that Anna couldn't see yet, but was finally ready to discover. Part 2. An Unexpected Sanctuary. The ride to Jake's ranch took about 20 minutes, but to Anna it felt like traveling to another world. They followed a winding dirt path that led away from the main road, past tall pine trees and rolling hills she had never seen before. The only sounds were the steady clip-clop of the horse's hooves and the gentle night sounds of crickets and owls. Anna had lived in the same county her whole life, but somehow Jake's land felt completely separate from everything she knew. It was like discovering a hidden valley that existed outside of time, where the troubles of the regular world couldn't reach. How long have you lived out here? Anna asked, holding on as they navigated a small creek crossing. About 8 years now, Jake replied. My grandfather left me this place when he passed. I'd been working cattle ranches for other people up until then, saving every penny I could. When I inherited this land, I finally had a chance to build something of my own. As they crested a small hill, Anna saw warm yellow lights twinkling in the distance. Jake's ranch wasn't fancy, but it looked solid and welcoming. The main house was a simple wooden structure with a wide front porch. Several outbuildings were scattered around the property. A barn, a chicken coop, and what looked like a workshop. It's not much to look at, Jake said, sounding almost apologetic, but it's home. Anna thought about her family's farm, which had been larger but was always falling apart. Her father had been too proud to ask for help with repairs and too stubborn to admit when something was beyond fixing. Jake's place looked smaller, but everything appeared to be in good condition. Someone clearly took care of this land with love and attention. They rode into the yard, and immediately Anna heard the soft nickering of horses. In a fenced pasture near the barn, she could see several dark shapes moving around in the moonlight. "How many horses do you have?" Anna asked. "Depends on the season," Jake said as he helped her down from the mare. "Right now about 15. Some are mine, some belong to neighbors who pay me to train them, and a few are just passing through." Passing through. Jake led the mare toward the barn. "Rescue horses. Animals that got hurt or abandoned. I fix them up and find them new homes. Can't save them all, but I try to help the ones I can." Anna followed him into the barn, which was clean and well organized. The smell of fresh hay and leather filled the air. Several horses poked their heads over stall doors to investigate the newcomers. Jake spoke to each one by name as he passed. Bella, Thunder, Lucky, and others. "They all seem so calm around you," Anna observed. "Horses are good judges of character," Jake said as he removed the mare's saddle. "They can tell when someone means them no harm. Takes time to build trust, but once you have it, they'll do anything for you." Anna wondered if Jake was talking about more than just horses. After Jake finished caring for his mare, he led Anna toward the house. The front porch was decorated with simple wooden furniture and hanging flower baskets. An old dog with graying fur around his muzzle got up from a blanket to greet them. "This is Rusty," Jake said, scratching the dog behind the ears. "He's been with me for 6 years now. Found him on the side of the road when he was just a puppy. Somebody had thrown him out of a car." Anna knelt down to pet Rusty, who immediately rolled over to show his belly. "He's sweet," she said. "He's a good judge of character too," Jake said with a smile. "If Rusty likes you, you're okay in my book." The inside of the house was simple but comfortable. The main room had a stone fireplace, a worn leather couch, and shelves lined with books about horses and ranching. The kitchen was small but spotlessly clean, with copper pots hanging from hooks and dried herbs growing in pots on the windowsill. "You can have the spare room," Jake said, leading Anna down a short hallway. "It's not fancy, but the bed is comfortable and the window faces east, so you'll get the morning sun." The room was indeed simple, just a bed with a colorful quilt, a dresser, and a small table with a lamp. But it felt peaceful and safe. Anna realized she hadn't felt truly safe in months. "Jake," Anna said, turning to face him, "I need you to know something. I don't have any money to pay you. When I said I lost everything, I meant everything. I have about $12 to my name, and that won't even buy groceries for a week." Jake leaned against the doorframe. "Did I ask you for money?" "No, but then don't worry about it. I told you, room and board included. You work hard, earn your keep, and we'll call it even." Anna felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Why are you being so kind to me? People don't just help strangers like this anymore." Jake was quiet for a moment, looking out the bedroom window at the dark pasture. "My grandfather used to say that kindness is like water. It flows downhill and finds its way to where it's needed most. Someone showed me kindness when I needed it. Now it's my turn to pass it along." "What happened to you?" Anna asked gently. "Long story for another day," Jake said. "Right now you need sleep more than you need my life history. There are towels in the bathroom, and I put some of my sister's old clothes in the dresser. She left them here years ago. They might fit you better than what you're wearing." Anna looked down at her torn and muddy dress. She had been wearing it for 2 days straight, ever since running from the banker's office. "You have a sister?" "Had," Jake said quietly. "She passed away a few years back. Car accident. But she would have liked you, I think. She always said our family was too small and we needed to adopt more people into it." Anna felt tears starting again. "I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. Now get some rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out what kind of work suits you best. I've got horses to train, fences to mend, and about a dozen other projects that could use an extra pair of hands." After Jake left, Anna sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process everything that had happened. This morning she had been planning her own funeral. Tonight she was sitting in a stranger's house, being offered work and shelter by a man who had no reason to help her beyond simple human decency. She changed into a soft flannel shirt and jeans that had belonged to Jake's sister. They fit reasonably well, and they smelled like lavender and sunshine instead of despair and defeat. For the first time in weeks, Anna felt almost human again. As she lay in bed, Anna could hear the gentle sounds of the ranch settling down for the night. Horses moving around in the pasture, the old dog Rusty walking across the wooden porch, Somewhere in the distance, an owl calling to its mate. These were the same kinds of sounds she had grown up with on her family's farm, but they felt different now, less burdened, less desperate. On her father's farm, every sound had reminded her of problems that needed solving, animals that needed feeding, fences that needed fixing, bills that needed paying. Here the sounds just seemed peaceful, like the ranch was a living thing that was content with itself, that knew its purpose and was comfortable in its own skin. Anna pulled the colorful quilt up to her chin and closed her eyes. For the first time in months, she wasn't afraid of what tomorrow might bring. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she wouldn't be facing it alone. Outside her window, she could hear Jake moving around in the barn, probably doing one last check on the horses. The sound was comforting, like having a guardian angel who wore cowboy boots. As sleep finally took her, Anna's last thought was a simple prayer of gratitude. She had come so close to ending her story on that bridge. Instead, somehow she had stumbled into the beginning of something new. Something that might, if she was very lucky, turn out to be something wonderful. The stars shone down on the peaceful ranch where broken things came to heal and lost souls found their way home. Part 3. Learning to Trust. Again, Anna woke up to the sound of roosters crowing and sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. For a moment, she forgot where she was and panicked, thinking she was late for morning chores on her family's farm. Then she remembered. The bridge. Jake, the offer of work and shelter. She was safe. The smell of coffee and bacon drifted down the hallway, making her stomach growl. Anna realized she hadn't eaten a proper meal in 2 days. She had been too anxious and scared to think about food. She dressed quickly in the borrowed clothes and made her way to the kitchen. Jake was standing at the stove, flipping pancakes with the skill of someone who had been cooking for himself for a long time. He looked up when she entered and smiled. "Morning," he said. "I wasn't sure what you like for breakfast, so I made a little bit of everything." "Hope you're hungry." Anna stared at the feast laid out on the kitchen table. Pancakes, bacon, scrambled eggs, fresh biscuits, and a jar of what looked like homemade jam. It was more food than she had seen in one place in weeks. "This is too much," Anna said. "You don't need to sit down and eat," Jake interrupted gently. "You're about as thin as a fence post and we've got a full day of work ahead of us. Can't have you fainting on me." Anna sat down and filled her plate, trying not to seem too eager. But the food was delicious and she found herself eating more than she had in days. Jake ate quietly across from her, occasionally making casual comments about the weather or the horses. "The mare you rode last night is named Honey," he said. "She's got the gentlest nature of any horse I've ever known. Perfect for someone who might be a little nervous around animals." "I'm not nervous around animals," Anna said between bites of pancake. "I grew up on a farm." "What kind of farm?" "Cattle, mostly. Some chickens and pigs. My father always said horses were too expensive to keep unless you were rich or crazy." Jake laughed. "Well, I guess that makes me crazy then. But horses have always made sense to me. They're honest creatures. They don't lie or pretend to be something they're not. If a horse doesn't like you, you know it right away. If they trust you, they'll give you everything they have." After breakfast, Jake took Anna on a tour of the ranch. In the daylight, she could see that the property was even more impressive than she had realized the night before. The pastures were green and well-maintained. The fences were straight and strong. Every building looked like it had been built to last. "How many acres do you have?" Anna asked as they walked toward the barn. "About 300, Jake said. "Not huge by some standards, but big enough for what I do. The back 40 is where I keep the rescue horses while they're healing up." "Want to see them?" They walked past the main horse pasture, where several beautiful animals grazed peacefully in the morning sun. Jake knew each horse's name and history. There was Thunder, a black stallion who had been abandoned by his previous owner. Bella, a paint mare who had been injured in a trailer accident. Lucky, an old gelding who had been saved from a slaughterhouse. "How do you afford to keep all these horses?" Anna asked. "Feed and veterinary bills must cost a fortune." "I do training for other ranchers," Jake explained. "Break young horses, work with problem animals, that sort of thing. The rescue work doesn't make money, but the training pays the bills. Plus, I've got some investments from my rodeo days." "You were in rodeo?" Jake nodded, looking a little embarrassed. "Bull riding, mostly. Did pretty well for a few years. Won some prize money. Saved every penny I could because I knew it wouldn't last forever. One too many hard landings convinced me it was time to find a safer line of work." They reached a smaller pasture, where several horses stood in the shade of a large oak tree. These animals looked different from the others, thinner, more cautious, with careful eyes that watched every movement. These are the ones who are still learning to trust people again, Jake said quietly. That gray mare over there is Misty. Someone used to beat her. Took months before she would let anyone touch her. Now she's starting to come around, but she's still scared. Anna watched Misty, whose ears were pinned back and whose body language screamed wariness. How do you help an animal that's been hurt like that? Same way you help a person, I guess, Jake said. Patience, consistency. Show them every day that you're not going to hurt them. Eventually, they start to believe it. Anna had the uncomfortable feeling that Jake might be talking about more than just horses. Over the next few weeks, Anna settled into a routine at the ranch. She helped with morning chores, feeding horses, collecting eggs from the chickens, cleaning stalls. Jake taught her how to groom the gentler horses and how to recognize signs of illness or injury. In return, Anna took over most of the cooking and cleaning. She discovered that Jake had been living on a steady diet of sandwiches and canned soup. Her home-cooked meals seemed to delight him, and he always complimented her cooking with genuine enthusiasm. Where did you learn to make bread like this? Jake asked one evening, holding up a slice of fresh sourdough. My mother, Anna said. She said store-bought bread was like eating air. Made me practice until I could make a proper loaf with my eyes closed. She sounds like a wise woman. She was. She died when I was 16. Cancer. Jake was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. That must have been hard. It was. But she taught me a lot before she left. How to cook, how to sew, how to take care of a house. She said those skills would serve me well no matter what life threw at me. She was right, Jake said. You've made this old house feel more like a home in 3 weeks than I managed in 8 years. Anna felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. Jake had a way of saying things that made her feel valued, like her contributions mattered. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. As the days passed, Anna began to notice things about Jake that impressed her. He was up before dawn every morning, checking on the animals and making sure everything was secure. He never lost his temper, even when dealing with difficult horses or frustrating problems. And he had an endless stream of neighbors and friends who stopped by asking for help with their own animals. Jake's the best horse trainer in 3 counties, explained Mrs. Rodriguez, an elderly woman who brought her grandson's pony for training. But more than that, he's just a good man. Hard to find these days. Anna also noticed how Jake interacted with the rescue horses. He never rushed them or forced them to do anything they weren't ready for. With Misty, the abused gray mare, he would simply sit in the pasture reading a book, letting her get used to his presence. Gradually, the horse began to move closer, curiosity overcoming fear. It's all about building trust, Jake explained to Anna one afternoon as they watched Misty take a tentative step toward them. She's been hurt, so she expects to be hurt again. I have to prove to her over and over that I'm different, that I'm safe. How long does it take? Anna asked. Depends on the horse. Some bounce back quickly. Others carry their scars for years. But I've never met a horse that couldn't be helped, if you're willing to put in the time. One evening, as they sat on the front porch after dinner, Anna finally worked up the courage to ask the question that had been bothering her for weeks. Jake, why did you really help me that night on the bridge? And don't say it's because someone helped you once. I want to know the real reason. Jake was quiet for a long time, staring out at the pasture where the horses were settling down for the night. Finally, he spoke. My sister Claire was depressed, he said quietly. Had been since she was a teenager. She tried to hide it, put on a happy face for everyone. But I could see it in her eyes sometimes. That same lost look you had on the bridge. Anna's heart clenched. What happened to her? Car accident, like I told you. But I always wondered if she had been more careful, if she had been paying attention, if maybe she just got tired of fighting. Anna reached over and touched Jake's hand. I'm sorry. The thing is, Jake continued, I never knew how to help her. I was young and stupid and thought telling her to cheer up would fix everything. I didn't understand that sometimes people need someone to just sit with them in the darkness until they're ready to find the light again. Is that what you were doing for me? Jake looked at her, and Anna saw pain and hope mixed together in his eyes. I was trying to be the person Claire needed me to be, the person I wished I had been for her. Anna felt tears starting, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude for this man who had taken his own pain and turned it into a gift for someone else. You saved my life, Anna said simply. No, Jake said, squeezing her hand gently. You saved your own life. You just needed someone to remind you that it was worth saving. As they sat together in the peaceful evening air, surrounded by the sounds of horses and crickets and the old dog Rusty snoring on the porch steps, Anna realized that something had changed inside her. The constant knot of anxiety in her stomach was gone. The feeling that she was drowning had been replaced by a sense of solid ground beneath her feet. For the first time since her father's death, Anna could imagine a future. She couldn't see all the details yet, but she could feel possibilities opening up like flowers in spring. And at the center of all those possibilities was this kind, patient man who had seen her at her worst moment and chosen to help rather than judge. Anna was learning to trust again, not just Jake, but herself. Part 4. Unexpected challenges. Anna had been living at Jake's ranch for almost 2 months when her peaceful world came crashing down. She was in the garden picking tomatoes for lunch when she heard the sound of expensive car engines coming up the dirt road. Her blood turned to ice when she recognized the black sedan in the lead. Richard Blackwood stepped out of the car like he owned the place. He was a tall man in his 50s with silver hair and a suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. Behind him came 2 other men. One was Sheriff Deputy Martinez, who looked uncomfortable and apologetic. The other was a stranger in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. Jake emerged from the barn, his face calm but his eyes alert. Anna could see the tension in his shoulders as he walked over to meet the unwelcome visitors. She set down her basket of tomatoes and hurried to stand beside him. Mr. Rivera, Blackwood said with a fake smile that never reached his eyes. I hope you don't mind the intrusion. We have some business to discuss with Miss Carter here. Anna's heart hammered against her ribs. She had been Anna Carter for 2 months now, but hearing her real name from Blackwood's mouth made her feel exposed and vulnerable. Any business you have with Anna can be discussed in front of me, Jake said firmly. This is my property and she's under my protection. Blackwood's smile grew sharper. Ah, yes, your property. Interesting that you mentioned that. You see, Mr. Rivera, Miss Carter here owes my bank a considerable amount of money, not just the mortgage she defaulted on, but additional debts that have come to light since the foreclosure. What additional debts? Anna managed to ask, though her voice came out as barely a whisper. The man with the briefcase stepped forward. Medical bills from your father's treatment that were submitted after his death. Credit cards in your name that we recently discovered. Outstanding loans against farm equipment. The total comes to over $60,000. Anna felt the world spinning around her. That's impossible. I paid all of my father's medical bills. I never had credit cards, and we owned our equipment free and clear. I'm afraid the paperwork says otherwise, Blackwood said smoothly. Now, Miss Carter, you've been hiding from your responsibilities long enough. It's time to face the consequences of your family's debts. She's not hiding, Jake said, his voice dangerously quiet. She's been working here, earning an honest living. And I'd like to see this so-called paperwork before anyone makes any accusations. Deputy Martinez cleared his throat uncomfortably. Jake, I'm sorry about this, but Mr. Blackwood has court documents. If Miss Carter can't pay what she owes, there could be criminal charges for fraud and debt evasion. Anna's legs almost gave out. Criminal charges? But I didn't do anything wrong. Ignorance of debt is not a defense, Blackwood said coldly. However, I'm prepared to be reasonable. Miss Carter, you come back to town with me today and we'll work out a payment plan. You can find employment in town and start paying down what you owe. Of course, you'll need to leave this ranch immediately. No, Jake said flatly. She's not going anywhere with you. Blackwood raised an eyebrow. Mr. Rivera, I understand you've grown attached to your house guest, but you can't harbor a debtor indefinitely. It's not legal. What's not legal is manufacturing fake debts to harass someone who's already lost everything, Jake shot back. Anna, don't sign anything or agree to anything until we can get a lawyer to look at these papers. A lawyer? Blackwood laughed. Mr. Rivera, do you have any idea how much lawyers cost? Miss Carter can't even afford her own debts, let alone legal representation. Anna stood frozen between the 2 men, feeling like a rabbit caught between 2 predators. Part of her wanted to just go with Blackwood to make this nightmare end. But a larger part of her, the part that had been growing stronger during her time at the ranch, refused to give up without a fight. I want to see the paperwork, Anna said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. All of it. I have a right to know exactly what you think I owe and why. The man with the briefcase opened it and pulled out a stack of documents. Anna took them with shaking hands and began to read. Jake looked over her shoulder, his jaw getting tighter with each page. This is ridiculous, Jake said after a few minutes. Anna, look at these dates. Some of these alleged debts are from after your father died. And this credit card, look at the signature on the application. Does that look like your handwriting? Anna studied the signature. It was close to hers, but not quite right. The A in Anna was formed differently than she usually wrote it. This isn't my signature, she said. Of course it is, Blackwood said impatiently. People's handwriting changes over time. Miss Carter, you're grasping at straws. These debts are real and they need to be paid. Then you won't mind if we take these documents to a handwriting expert, Jake said, and to the medical billing departments to verify these charges, and to the equipment dealers to confirm these loans. For the first time, Blackwood looked less confident. That seems unnecessary. The documents speak for themselves, do they? Jake pulled out his phone. Anna, what was the name of your father's doctor? Let's call his office right now and ask about any outstanding bills. Anna gave him the name and Jake dialed the number. After a brief conversation, he hung up and smiled grimly. Interesting. Dr. Williams's office says they have no record of any unpaid bills for Robert Carter. In fact, they show his account is paid in full as of 6 months ago. Blackwood's face was starting to turn red. One office doesn't account for all possible medical expenses. There were specialists, hospitals. Then we'll call them too, Jake said calmly. All of them. Right now. This is a waste of time, Blackwood snapped. Deputy Martinez, I want this woman arrested for debt fraud immediately. Deputy Martinez looked deeply uncomfortable. Mr. Blackwood, I can't arrest someone based on disputed documents. If Miss Carter is challenging the validity of the debts, this becomes a civil matter, not a criminal one. But she's been evading her creditors. She's been working an honest job and living at a known address, the deputy replied. That's not evasion. Jake, Anna, I suggest you both get yourselves a lawyer and fight this properly. Don't let anyone pressure you into signing anything today. Blackwood was furious now. This is obstruction of justice. Rivera, you're interfering with official business. No, Jake said steadily. I'm protecting someone I care about from what looks like a scam. And if you don't get off my property in the next 5 minutes, I'll call the sheriff myself and report harassment. The man with the briefcase tugged on Blackwood's sleeve. Sir, maybe we should reconsider our approach. If they're going to fight this legally, fine, Blackwood snarled. Miss Carter, this isn't over. You can't hide behind your boyfriend forever. These debts are real and you will pay them one way or another. As the three men got back into their cars and drove away, Anna collapsed onto the front porch steps. She felt like she might throw up. They're going to ruin my life, she whispered. Even if those debts are fake, fighting them will cost more than I could ever afford. And what if some of them are real? What if there really are bills I didn't know about? Jake sat down beside her and put his arm around her shoulders. Anna, listen to me. We're going to fight this. I've got some money saved up and I know a good lawyer in town. We'll challenge every single one of these alleged debts. I can't let you spend your money on my problems, Anna protested. They're not just your problems anymore, Jake said gently. When someone threatens someone I love, it becomes my problem too. Anna looked up at him in surprise. Love? Jake's cheeks turned slightly red. I wasn't planning to say it like that. But yes, Anna, I love you. I've been falling in love with you since the day you started making my coffee taste better and filling this house with laughter. Despite everything that had just happened, Anna felt her heart lift. I love you too, she said softly. I was afraid to say it because I didn't want you to think I was just grateful for your help. Jake cupped her face in his hands. Anna Carter, you are the strongest, kindest, most incredible woman I've ever known. You're not staying here out of gratitude. You're staying here because you belong here, with me. As they sat together on the porch, holding each other and watching the dust settle from Blackwood's departure, Anna realized that something fundamental had changed. She was no longer the broken, desperate woman who had stood on that bridge 2 months ago. She had Jake's love, she had found her own strength, and she was not going to let Richard Blackwood destroy the new life she had built. What do we do next? Anna asked. We fight, Jake said simply. We prove those debts are fake. We find out who's behind this and why, and we make sure Blackwood can never do this to anyone else. Anna nodded, feeling a fierce determination growing in her chest. She had been running scared for too long. It was time to stand and fight for the life she deserved. "Okay," she said, "let's fight." As the sun set over the peaceful ranch, Anna and Jake began making plans. They didn't know it yet, but their investigation would uncover a web of corruption and fraud that went far beyond Anna's case. Richard Blackwood had been systematically destroying small farmers and ranchers for years, using fake documents and legal intimidation to steal their land. But Anna and Jake were not going to be his next victims. They had something Blackwood didn't expect: love, determination. Part 5. A New Beginning. The lawyer Jake hired was a sharp woman named Patricia Wells who specialized in financial fraud cases. She took one look at Blackwood's documents and smiled like a cat who had found a bowl of cream. "These are fake," she said bluntly. "Not even good fakes. The credit card application has the wrong routing numbers for the bank. The medical bills are formatted incorrectly. And this loan document, see this watermark? That company went out of business 3 years before this supposed loan was made." Anna felt relief wash over her like cool water on a hot day. "So I don't owe this money?" "You don't owe a penny of it," Patricia confirmed. "But more interesting is the question of who created these fake documents and why. Anna, I think you may have stumbled into something much bigger than personal debt collection." Over the next few weeks, Patricia and her team investigated Blackwood's business practices. What they found was shocking. Richard Blackwood had been running an elaborate scheme for over 5 years, targeting small farmers and ranchers throughout the county. His method was always the same. He would wait for a family to face financial hardship, usually after a death or medical emergency. Then he would foreclose on their property through his bank. But instead of stopping there, he would create fake additional debts to prevent the families from recovering or challenging the foreclosure in court. Most people, already devastated by their losses, would either pay the fake debts or simply disappear rather than fight. Those who did try to challenge him found themselves facing expensive legal battles they couldn't afford. Blackwood would drag out the proceedings until his victims gave up or went bankrupt from legal fees. He's stolen over $3 million worth of property this way, Patricia explained to Anna and Jake. Your family's farm was just the latest target. If you hadn't fought back, he would have gotten away with it again. Anna felt sick thinking about all the other families Blackwood had destroyed. Can we stop him? We can and we will, Patricia said firmly. I've already contacted the FBI's white-collar crime division. They're very interested in Mr. Blackwood's activities, but I need you to be the lead witness, Anna. Are you willing to testify against him? Anna looked at Jake, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, she said. If it means stopping him from hurting other people, I'll do whatever it takes. The legal process took several months, but eventually, Richard Blackwood was arrested on multiple charges of fraud, forgery, and theft. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Not only did Patricia's team prove the documents were fake, but they found records showing Blackwood had paid a forger to create false debts for dozens of families. Anna's family farm was restored to her through the courts, along with compensation for her suffering. But by then, Anna had made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. I'm going to sell the farm, she told Jake one evening as they sat on their favorite spot on the front porch. Jake looked surprised. Are you sure? It's your family's legacy. Anna was quiet for a moment, watching the horses grazing peacefully in the moonlight. My family's legacy isn't a piece of land, she said finally. It's the values they taught me. Hard work, kindness, taking care of those who need help. I can honor that legacy anywhere. What will you do with the money? Anna turned to face him, her eyes bright with excitement. I want to expand our rescue operation. Buy more land. Build proper facilities. Maybe even start a program to help other people who are going through what I went through. Jake's face lit up. Our rescue operation? If you'll have me as a partner, Anna said, suddenly shy. In business and in everything else. Jake pulled her into his arms and kissed her thoroughly. Anna Carter. Nothing would make me happier than spending the rest of my life with you. They were married 6 months later in a simple ceremony in the pasture behind the house. Anna wore her mother's wedding dress, which she had rescued from the farmhouse before selling it. Jake wore his grandfather's suit, which he had altered to fit his larger frame. Instead of expensive flowers, the wedding was decorated with wildflowers that Anna had picked from the meadow. Instead of a fancy reception hall, they celebrated in the barn, which had been cleaned and decorated with string lights and ribbons. All of their neighbors came to the wedding, along with Patricia the lawyer, Deputy Martinez, and even some of the FBI agents who had worked on Blackwood's case. Mrs. Rodriguez brought her famous tamales, and several other neighbors contributed dishes for a potluck reception. But the most special guests were the horses. Jake had trained all of the rescue horses to stand calmly during the ceremony, and they formed a living aisle as Anna walked toward her groom. Even Misty, the gray mare who had been so damaged when she arrived, stood peacefully as Anna passed, finally trusting humans enough to be part of their celebration. "I pronounce you husband and wife," said the minister, a kind elderly man who had known Jake's grandfather. "Jake, you may kiss your bride." As Jake and Anna kissed, the horses nickered softly, and Anna could swear she heard her parents' voices carried on the wind, giving their blessing to this new beginning. With the money from selling her family's farm, Anna and Jake were able to buy an additional 200 acres of land adjacent to their existing property. They built new barns, expanded the pastures, and created a proper rehabilitation facility for injured and traumatized horses. But they also did something unique. They started a program they called Second Chances, which offered temporary housing and work opportunities for people who were facing financial or personal crises. Sometimes it was widows who had lost their farms. Sometimes it was young people aging out of foster care. Sometimes it was veterans struggling with returning to civilian life. Everyone deserves a second chance, Anna would tell people who asked about the program. Sometimes all someone needs is a safe place to stay while they figure out their next step. The program was funded partly by their horse training business, which had grown as word spread about Jake's gentle methods, and partly by donations from grateful families they had helped. Anna managed the human side of the operation, while Jake focused on the horses, though they often worked together on both aspects. One of their first guests was a young mother named Lisa, whose husband had died in a construction accident, leaving her with 2 small children and no way to pay the rent. Anna set her up in one of the guest cabins they had built and helped her find work in town while Jake taught her children how to care for the gentler horses. "I don't know what we would have done without you," Lisa said on the day she moved into her own apartment in town. "You saved us." "You saved yourselves," Anna replied, echoing words Jake had once said to her. "You just needed someone to believe in you while you found your strength." 3 years after their wedding, Anna and Jake were sitting on their front porch watching the sunset when Anna made an announcement that surprised them both. "I'm pregnant," she said quietly. Jake nearly dropped his coffee cup. "Are you sure?" "Pretty sure," Anna said with a laugh. "I took 3 different tests." Jake whooped with joy and spun Anna around in his arms, being careful not to squeeze too tight. "A baby! Anna, we're going to have a baby!" As they sat together that evening, planning for their growing family, Anna thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. She had started out as a desperate woman on a bridge, ready to give up on life. Now she was a wife, a business partner, a helper to others in need, and soon to be a mother. "Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked, as if reading her thoughts. "Leaving your old life behind?" Anna considered the question seriously. "I regret that I had to lose so much to find this," she said finally. "I regret that other people had to be hurt by Blackwood's schemes. But regret coming here, building this life with you, finding out who I really am? Never." Jake kissed the top of her head. "I love you, Ana Rivera." "I love you too," Anna replied, savoring the sound of her married name. Their daughter was born 9 months later, a healthy, happy baby with Jake's dark hair and Anna's determined chin. They named her Hope, because she represented everything good that had come from their darkest moments. As Anna nursed baby Hope on the front porch one evening, watching Jake work with a new rescue horse in the pasture, she marveled at how much her life had changed. The woman who had stood on that bridge 3 years ago could never have imagined this peace, this joy, this sense of purpose. The ranch thrived under their care. Word of their rescue work spread, and soon they were getting calls from all over the state asking for help with difficult horses. Their Second Chances program helped dozens of people get back on their feet, and their love story inspired others to believe that sometimes the darkest nights lead to the brightest dawns. Richard Blackwood was eventually sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Many of the families he had victimized were able to recover their property or receive compensation. Anna testified at his sentencing hearing, no longer the frightened woman she had once been, but a confident advocate for justice, Your Honor, she said, looking directly at Blackwood as she spoke. This man tried to destroy my life when I was at my most vulnerable. But he failed to understand something important. When you try to break people who have already survived loss and hardship, you often discover that they're stronger than you think. I'm grateful that his actions led me to fight back.